Welcome to Crazy Shit in Real Estate, a weekly podcast where I walk you through some of the wildest, most unbelievable stories you'll hear from the world of real estate. If you like real estate and you love crazy, this is the podcast for you.
So what did your shirt say? Shop small, Houston.
Yeah.
Is anything small in Houston? I thought everything was bigger in Texas.
It is bigger in Texas. I'm doing an episode for CNBC tomorrow, so I had a bunch of shirts made. So I did like local, support local. So I had 4 different designs, and this is the one I'm not using. So I wanted to see how the shirt wore all day. So, but yeah, we're going to do. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, with this whole Reddit controversy, shop small's taken on a whole new meaning. And I love that you're going to be on CNBC. Can you please bring that up? Please.
Well, yes, I can. It won't air until February, the end of February. So it's the American Dream on CNBC. It'll be fun.
Okay. I've seen that. They prospected me before.
Well, listen, it used to be on Fox, but they're really dialing in their reach right now. And so I'm excited. So we shoot our first episode tomorrow, highlighting the Houston Heights, and it's going to be fun. So it's more of a lifestyle. It'll be great.
Well, I can't wait to hear how it works. And then you can tell me if it's worth the money or not, because I keep telling them no.
It's going to be worth the money. It's what you do with the content afterwards.
Well, that's true.
Here's the thing. So my word this year is attractional. I want to do things.
Is what? Attractional?
Attractional.
Okay.
Like I want you to come after me instead of me pursuing people. And you do that by things like how you position the American Dream as seen on CNBC. So what we're doing is we're really leveraging the content to continue to be industry thought leaders locally and in our region. And so it's $27,000 for 6 episodes. But what I did was I hired a virtual assistant to run 3 initiatives. I hired a VA to do the CNBC. I hired the same VA to run my podcast, and the other one to do a FBC Top 50 where we celebrate the top 50 listing agents and buyers agents in our region.
I like that.
And so my whole sticky statement is local small businesses are the heartbeat of thriving communities. And that's what my whole theme is this year. So how do we intertwine business with making a difference and impact? So the whole combination will probably be $100,000 initiative. But girl, I got to tell you, we'll break 7 figures this year because of it. And it's like, okay, let's go. You know,
absolutely.
So, hey, well, I'm excited. Crazy shit in real estate. Now, I was laughing because I'm like, Steph, I'm on a podcast with me, crazy shit in real estate. That's going to be fun. Talk to me about it. How did you start this?
Well, I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina, right? So we're actually just outside of Charlotte in Concord, actually in my famous office, right? So I'm not virtual. This is the real world. See, I love the real world. And I started the podcast because I'm so tired of the mainstream media telling the world what real estate looks like. So if you look at HGTV and you watch any of the house hunter shows, 30 minutes, 3 houses, sit by the waterfront cafe, pick one. There's no lenders, no inspections, no appraisals, no hiccups. They just pick it and buy it. Well, that message gets out to the public. And we know this as practicing realtors. You go to a listing and they don't understand why it doesn't look like it looked on TV. And buyers don't understand, well, what are these bidding wars? Nobody on property, the house hunters has bidding wars, and you can renovate a house for apparently like $100, and the property brothers come and they can do all kinds of things. And it's created unrealistic expectations. But we know as realtors, when we hang out with each other, it becomes this, y'all are never going to believe what happened to me. And then somebody else says, oh, well, you think so? Let me tell you what I got. And we start one-upping with our war stories. And they're all true. We don't have to make anything up in real estate because it makes its own storyline every day. And so I started the podcast in that vein because every time we have one of these stories to tell, there's another side to it, which is how the professional realtor gets somebody through to the other side, or the lender or the appraiser, the home inspector, because it takes professionals to deal with wild situations. And every time we do what's the best, professional realtors, not all realtors, right? But the best ones do what's best for the client so they can figure out the best possible outcome no matter what, which is my thinly veiled story of the whole podcast, is the other side of it. But the stories have wound up being just fun and fantastic. And the best part of the podcast for me is that in the 4.5 years I've been doing the show, and coming up on episode 250 is coming up this summer. I'm so excited. I know,
That's
right?
nuts.
And trying to figure out what I'm going to do with that. I might tell some of my own stories because I still haven't done that. But my audience moved. It used to be almost all realtors that listen to the show, and now it's mostly consumers who really are pretty much a bunch of voyeurs, and they like to see inside our businesses. And so when you're here today as a man who's in the game in Houston and doing a great job in real estate, we're not going to talk about sales and we're not going to talk about any of that big stuff. I want you to tell our listeners, who is Steve? And that's a really broad thing. So what I want you to tell them is how long you've been in real estate, maybe what you did before real estate, and then we'll tell your crazy story.
Hey, well, listen, hold on.
How long you been in real estate?
I want the recording. And so while I've got you here, because you're going to send me this, and I'm going to post it on my podcast and promote yours. So while I've got the Leigh Brown out of North Carolina on the Crazy Shit in Real Estate podcast, which all my listeners know is so funny. Tell us a little bit more about it. Like, tell us, so you're 4 years in. How did you get started? You know, what I find is, as a listener, the challenge is when you have a great idea, we tend to be paralyzed by the fear of perfection. What if it doesn't work? How do I get started? What's my next step? So with the success you've seen, give our listeners a little bit about the inside scoop on you. Tell us a little bit more what you want to hear, and then I'm going to throw it up on the podcast. And where can they download your content and stay connected with you?
Well, you know, it's on iTunes and all the other places that podcasts live, Stitcher and the places. I don't even know where all it is. It's in all the places.
Yeah.
But the proof that I have no idea what I'm doing and I make it up every day, it's that I still don't have sponsors because I'm so protective. I love my podcast, and it would take a really special advertiser to fit in with the stories that I tell. And frankly, a lot of people in real estate say that I'm not brand safe because they're afraid of what's going to come out of my mouth, which is fine. This is my show. And so if you go back to the beginning days, I was still trying to figure out what technology to use, right? So I've tried every different way to record guests. I was all audio at the beginning. And in January of 2020, I switched to a video component because I was watching what other people do. And Dan Bongino, of course, is one of the most successful podcasters out there. Dan was going through that transition of adding video. And I'm like, well, if Dan Bongino's doing it, I'm going to do what Dan does because he's one of my favorite news commentators. And that's when I added video. And video, of course, adds another dimension to the podcast. And so if you look back at my early episodes, you're like, Leigh, what were you doing? Sounds kind of crappy. There's no video. Some of your episodes are really great and some suck, because at the beginning, I wasn't great at vetting guests. And I have a couple of guests that were just total duds. So if you're listening to my podcast and you hit a dud episode, just hit fast forward and go to the next one, because there's probably a really great one behind it. That's just my warning to you. And the best episode ever, I believe it's in season 1. It might be in season 2. It's Steve Westmark from Minnesota.
Yeah.
And Steve was having an open house, and the seller was in the house at the time, but dead. And so Steve had clients in the house, and he had to manage finding a dead seller and then getting people out of the house. And then he got investigated by the police. It's the best story ever.
Oh my God.
Easily one of my most downloaded episodes. But, you know, it's a passion project, right? And what you know is that passion projects never look perfect. In fact, the more perfect somebody is, Steve, the less trustworthy they probably are. Yeah. I like really raw, real people, which is why most of my video is done on iPhone. And my real estate business, my clients love me when I tell them, y'all not going to believe this, which is the whole point of this show.
That's great talking points, girl. Hey, and you know what I love too, is that I love you're just being yourself. You know, you and I met in what is that platform?
Clubhouse. Oh, I love Clubhouse.
Yeah.
There's so many fake people in there. Holy crap.
Are there a bunch of, what's so funny
is such a fluff fest.
Oh, I don't know, man. Well, so I'm a part of the industry syndicate. You know, the guys at the syndicate. So all of a sudden we're in a room. And
wait a minute. We're going to make sure though, this goes before Dustin's episode. So Dustin Brahm's episode is after Steve Kyle's episode. Let's make that very clear, because Dustin's going to love this.
Oh, he's going to love that for sure. And so we actually met on Clubhouse, and that is where I just love who you are as a person, because I think when people are looking for new initiatives, and Leigh, this is what I coach a lot of guys, and I tell them, what you did last year and what you did this year, there's a gap. You got to fill in the gap with a new initiative. You got to put fire on what's working and you need something that's going to fill in the gap. And what I love about what you're doing is it's a gap filler, but it's authentic to who you are. It's bringing light to your business. It's allowing your character and your personality and your just who you are to really shine bright, and it attracts people to you. So I love it. It's great.
Well, it's the whole attractional thing, right? But I mean, honestly, the person that you are is the best key to anybody's business. And I think it's because we're middle-aged. We figured that out. I figured it out in my early middle years. Look, I can see the salt and pepper. I'm not blind. You did not go to the men's club and get the, what's it called, Grecian formula to cover up the salt and pepper.
Yeah.
I might cover this, but I can see this. That's why Joe Biden can't shave his head, because those old hair plugs, they're like, it would look like an old farm. And I cracked up when I heard that, because I'm like, that's totally true. But anyway, I don't remember what we're saying about attractional marketing, but I do love besides the fluffy people on Clubhouse, I do love those real conversations, because that's the part of real estate that we love, are the conversations we have with clients and with other realtors and with the public. And it's something everybody's got a relation to of some sort. And then what you do with it is what you said, between last year and this year, you know things, you see things. So what do you do with it? And I say, instead of being a gap filler, I put a little more coal on the fire. That's what I'm doing every day. Put a little more coal on the fire.
I love it. Hey, well,
but not gasoline. Gasoline's out of control.
Well, you could put diesel. There you go.
Diesel's expensive. Have you looked at the prices of fuel?
Not really. You and I are good. We're good. we're not looking at fuel prices. Everybody who listened to the podcast, check out Leigh Brown. I love her. We are fast friends. Check out what she's doing. Stay connected. And with that, anything we're doing is worth doing badly. Just get started. See ya.
Exactly, because you can get better. You can also get worse. But you can also do nothing and then die a lonely, sad life, like that plant you got for Christmas that you didn't water, and it wilted in the window, and it looks pathetic. Leaves all falling off. So, Steve, Kyle, you got to tell them, what part of Houston are you in? Are you like Woodlands, or are you Houston, or where do you operate?
Yeah, well, I'm out of Houston, but I really live in a suburb called Rosenberg. So it's a little country suburb, and I have 5 acres that back up to the Brazos River. And I got 3 kids, 9, 6, and 3. And so we just love, it's a slice of heaven. It's about 29 miles outside of downtown. And then I operate 7 offices within the Houston region. So a couple in Houston, and a lot of, the others are in suburbs. And so it's great. We say we're in Houston because if I said Rosenberg, you'd say, what is Rosenberg? So,
I know. And I used to live in Texas, but I never went to Rosenberg.
It's a small town. It's a sleepy railroad town. And as a matter of fact, I'm sitting in our downtown Rosenberg campus that we have here. And so it's a historic railroad district. So it's a pretty cool place to be.
Oh, I love that. So is it as sleepy as Waxahachie, or is it a little more perky than that?
It's getting a little perky. A lot of people are moving out of Houston, and
who can blame them?
Yeah. Well, in the commute time to the Rosenberg area is so much better than the other suburbs. The freeways are less congested. So
are you off at 10?
No, we're out 59.
Gotcha.
It's past Sugar Land, about 10, 15 minutes past Sugar Land, and that's it. Yeah.
So they can come visit you. So if y'all are listening to the podcast, go visit Steve. Go knock on his door and say, hey, because frankly, wouldn't that be cool if somebody knocked on your door and said, I heard you on the podcast? They'd be like, what? That'd be so fun. Go watch Steve's face when you do that. I've never had a visitor to my office from listening to the podcast. Have you?
No. Well, I try not to let them know where I'm at. My address is not the same one I'm actually at on a daily basis. So it's trickery.
Sneaky pants. Okay, so go stalk 59, because eventually you have to show up at this location.
That's right. Well, just keep driving down 59.
Just keep showing. All right, so how long have you been in real estate?
Yeah. Hey, well, great question. 18 years. I got in when I was 25 years old. I was newly married, dead broke, $250,000 in debt, 4 houses in foreclosure. How about that?
I mean, what's a little money amongst friends, or a little hole? I mean,
making $250 a week, and I felt like God told me to get into the mortgage business. I got in, Leigh, I didn't even know you spelled mortgage with 2 G's. Like, where's that second G go? It's mortgage. Like, I'm not hearing a second G. So I got started, dead broke. First year, I think I did $18,000 that first year, and literally just continued to get better every year, and now run a market for movement. We've grown just in the last 12 months, 250% year over year. And so we're really working to scale and build a great business. And
Movement's from here. Casey lives here.
I know it.
Right.
That's my boy, our company, Movement's a great group, great company.
Although he did jump over into the South Carolina line with their headquarters, it caused quite a kerfluffle in the Charlotte Business Journal.
Yes. And I think it was because of taxes.
I think it was a lot because of taxes and incentives. You whisper, I say things loudly. Yeah. But Movement does do a great job and very comfortable with parking a loan officer in a real estate office to be available, which is frankly, we should probably tell the public this. If you ever wonder why some mortgage lenders and some realtors are top producers and other ones are not, it's not because we have like MBAs and doctorates and things, although we know things, but generally it's because we answer the phone and we show up. And I know that's crazy, but then if you show up and you're likable, recipe for success.
Amazing. Hey, when I was thinking about your podcast, and that was actually one of the things I jotted down. I'm like, how to not go broke as a realtor and loan officer. Return phone calls. Do what you said you're going to do.
And can we make outbound calls too? Can we make that a two-parter? And
it's
hey, look, y'all, did y'all know there's like a phone on here and it's got numbers? And if you match that green circle, you'll call somebody. What?
Like, boom, mind blown.
Okay, so back to our crazy shit. So I've got to know the story. So there's got to be a backstory for something you saw that you said, I cannot for the life of me believe that this just happened. I got to call somebody. Y'all not going to believe this. Those are the stories my visitors like to hear. But I'm frankly curious too about the fact that you were able to talk your wife into marrying you when you were that far in debt means you actually do have some sales skills because you had to sell her, friend. Oh, did you hit mute? Oh, you're coughing. There you go.
I'll tell you, it's a funny story. I'm actually an identical twin brother. So I got lucky. I introduced my twin brother to his wife when we were 15 years. And Leigh, listen to how spiritual this is. I was going on a mission trip and my church was going to youth camp. And I liked this girl's cousin. And I said, hey, Phyllis, I'm going to introduce you to my twin brother. That way you're not lonely at youth camp. I mean, you'll have a friend and somebody he'll introduce you to everybody. I came back a month later and they had been dating. 7 years later, they got married. My wife was the maid of honor. I was the best man. We met at their wedding rehearsal dinner. And
Shut up.
2 years later, we got married. They had been best friends since they were 6 years old. And so our wives are best friends. Our kids are best friends. So she got married because we kind of wrangled her into the family. And listen, Leigh, it was funny. We were 20 years old and we came from a low working class family. My dad was a restaurateur, paycheck to paycheck. And we watched one of those Russ Whitney videos. Listen to how this is some crazy shit. But listen to this. We watched a video. It was like you didn't even have DVR. You couldn't record TV and all that. And it said, we'll teach you how to flip houses and you'll make millions of dollars. And all you got to do is jump on a bus and go to Florida, right? You remember we go to Coral Gables, Florida and watch these guys flipping houses. 20 years old, dead broke. I had a credit card for $1,000. My twin brother had a credit card for $1,000. And we convinced somebody to pitch in $2,000. We found a house for $6,000. Leigh, a two-bedroom.
Are you serious?
A 2-bedroom, 1-bath house for $6,000. Now,
hang on. What year was this?
This was in, I don't know, it's 20. I'm 43 now. So that was 98. Like between 97, 98, 99 in there. 19.
Asterisk, that doesn't exist right now, friends. Asterisk, that doesn't exist right now.
So listen to how crazy this is, Leigh. We only had $4,000, right? I had $1,000 credit card. Jim had $1,000 credit card.
There's a gap.
So I convinced the seller to hold a $2,000 note for 30 days. What?
Of course they want to. What's the big deal? They get the whole $4,000.
I mowed the yard and a guy with $100 bills drove by and said, I want that house for my mama. Now, listen, if you got $10,000, $100 bills in a roll, what you thinking? Upstanding?
I'm thinking I'm not a licensed lender at that point, so I don't have to ask questions. But if you're a licensed lender in 2021, you would then want to talk about seasoning of funds. And so,
Like
full
Dodd-Frank?
disclosure, Steve didn't have a license at the time.
There's no Dodd-Frank. There was nothing. I mean, it was literally the dude rolled up in hundreds. I didn't know you had to close at a title company. I just thought,
Well, and he's taking care of his mom. I mean, how could that be shady, Steve?
man, you got to take care of mama. Mama's
Yes.
important. And so we met at a gas station and he had $100 bills and he gave it to me. And then we had to backtrack and say, hey, man, look, I think we got to go to a title company and do all of this right. It was so funny. But that started my love for real estate. The next house we paid $14,400 for, we flipped it for $32,000. And the story kept moving until we partnered with somebody who at that point, he went bankrupt. It caused us to go bankrupt. And so here we are at 24, 25, just in a world of debt. And that's where I knew that, hey, listen, mortgages were what I was supposed to do. And over the next 10 years, Leigh, we paid everybody back, every debt, every liability, got every house out of foreclosure, and just stayed planted in building a mortgage business. But man, we have some funny, crazy stories about things that have happened. So here we are. That's where we're at.
I mean, your own story is pretty fascinating. And I got to point something out, though, which is actually crazy in a different light. You went back and paid everybody off. You didn't try to get away from any of your obligations. And in the world in which we populate this nowadays, that's a big deal. So high five for that kind of crazy shit that we should all be trying to live better into, because we all owe a debt. Even if it's not a financial debt, you owe a debt to a mentor, you owe a debt to your community. There's all these debts that we actually owe that we got to think about as we're operating our lives.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Tons of fun. Hey, you want another crazy story? Because I've been thinking about it. So listen to this. How about having a there's a non-permanent resident purchase a permanent resident card and a social security card at a flea market. You
can buy anything at a flea market.
Getting caught in the transaction and then calling the Hispanic loan officer who worked for me racist.
Why was it racist? Because we're not supposed to break laws?
I was great. Listen, Michael, my one of the guys who works for me, he's like, Steve, you got to tell that story of a non-permanent resident purchasing a permanent resident green card and a social security card, and then calling Michael Lopez a racist.
I know what Michael said when that happened. I can tell you what he said. He said, "Una más cerveza, por favor."
Dos más, por favor.
Dos por favor. I would seriously, because
crazy.
We need a little more responsibility, friends. If you're buying your social security card, that's kind of on you. Just saying.
Hey, listen, it's some crazy stuff, man. We have seen nonsense.
And we get to see it every day. So I'm curious, how did Michael handle that phone call? Besides laughing hysterically.
Yeah, with a little bit of tact and a lot of humor. The challenge is when it starts to go up the chain of command and they're saying, you guys are racist. And so it becomes a little bit political, but thank God it was Michael Lopez who handled the situation instead of Steve Kiles, because that could have been messy.
But not everything does have to get messy if people will ask questions. This is reading beyond the headline, right? So if you see the headline, Michael Lopez is racist, if you read the whole story, be like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Obviously, he's not. So friends, read beyond the headline and ask questions, because we'd have less crazy shit, frankly, if we did handle it with tact and humor and with a little bit of information.
Yes.
Is Michael Lopez still a loan officer?
He is running my team, one of my teams. And so he is
he kicks ass.
He's a killer. We call him a brain surgeon.
So is he still bilingual or is he trilingual? Does he speak Portuguese too?
No, he might. I don't know. It depends.
I try to speak Spanish, but it's more of a Spanglish, and it's people laugh at me. But if you smile a lot when you say words incorrectly, people give you grace. And that's part of the tact and humor. Have a little opportunity to get some grace, right?
I love it. Hey, well, listen, have you ever done any research on, and we're not going to name names, but there's big companies that are just call centers. And I always think this is some crazy stuff as well. Like some of the big advertisers you'll see on TV, They tend to be call centers, although they are LOs. But Leigh, have you ever read the resumes of those LOs?
I have not. Is there one that I should read? Have you read something?
I wish I was trying to find it. I actually this week I'm like, guys, get me that resume. But so we had some people and they're like, oh, I'm going to go with the lowest rate and fees. And I'm like, that's fantastic. I said, hey, do you know what that loan officer's done? He said, no, but man, they're really good. And I said, well, did they talk to you about your student loan debt and how you have to qualify? Because your loan's really, really tricky. And just because they're not raising the red flag now doesn't mean this isn't going to be one of those casualties a week away from closing. And he's like, oh man, they told me that it's good. Not only that, they work for a temp agency. So I've got a borrower who works for a temp agency less than 2 years.
Oh, I thought you meant the loan officer worked for a temp agency. I just had heart palpitations.
No. But listen, so it's like crazy stuff, like complicated income. The borrower works for a temp agency. Do you know you can't use it unless there's 2 years history? No, he told me I was good. I said, do you realize 30 days ago he was a dog walker? And before that, he worked at PetSmart? Like, you're going to trust your financial decisions with somebody who was a pet, literally walking dogs 30 days ago. But it is some crazy stuff, not realizing the complexity of the mortgage process. And I think that is absolutely crazy stuff. So anyway, that's
Which is why if you're a consumer, ask questions, because the former dog walker might be amazing, but if they've only been in the business 30 days, your question becomes, who's your mentor? Who's your manager? Who do you go to for backup? Because new people can do great things too, but generally they need somebody with them. But you mentioned student loans. I'm looking up a note that yesterday, one of my lenders who's trying to become my preferred lender, we interview them every year. We have speed dating. She said that she can help people restructure their student loans into a different income. Was it based on their income? So it helps them get a different payment, which helps them qualify. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, so it's income.
That's kind of crazy to me.
Yeah, income deferred payment plan. So what happens is if you've got student loans, now here's the thing, conventional loans allow you to look at an income-based repayment plan. FHA does not. So it also depends on the different types of programs. So
she was in conventional territory, but she's talking about Sallie Mae loans.
Yeah, that's right. Because on conventional loans, so let me give you an example, Leigh. I have a pastor that I'm working with right now. He's got about $76,000 in student loans. But here's what's interesting. Because he works for a nonprofit, at 120 months, that loan is forgiven. But since he came out of school, that has been on a zero pay income deferred payment plan. And so his credit report shows a $765 a month payment, but we have proof that he doesn't pay anything on it because it's an income-based repayment. So we can actually qualify him on a zero payment, even though a student loan reflects that the payment would be almost $800. So you can on conventional, but on FHA, it's a little bit more tricky. It's got to be a fully amortized payment, or you have to use 1% of the full balance. And I'm telling you, that can be crazy. I talked to a lady yesterday, Leigh, $385,000 in student loans, and she works for the city. Like,
what the hell was she doing for $385,000? Don't spend so much money on bad colleges, people.
Hey, Leigh, you want to know some other crazy shit? I'll tell you that. Excuse my French. I'm just liking to say the word shit. That's just been fun. I know you're trying to be a good Christian boy, and here I'm leading you down the path of sin. But it's I told my wife, like, that's just fun to say crazy shit. I don't say it a whole lot, but listen. Hey,
your kids aren't in the room, right?
No. Hey, but listen, in the role that I'm in, Leigh, guess what's so funny? I'm a 6-year college dropout. I didn't even finish school. Yeah, it took me 6 to realize that I'm going to fall short 24 hours of a double major in business and marketing at Lamar University. It's a small.
They got a lot of your money.
Well, I paid for it myself, so it didn't matter. I paid for it as I went. And I'll tell you, I had to drop out because my dad was a restaurateur. Yeah. And one of his restaurants was failing, and he said, son, would you come help me? And I said, done. And then I just never went back to school. I got into the mortgage business, and but I always laugh because, and I dropped finance 4 times. I walked in, and literally a week, I'm like, I can do this. I can do this. I can do this. And by like, you had to drop by that certain date. And I'm like, I can't do this. I can't do this. So here I am leading a market, one of the top 1% originators in the country.
In finance.
Doing it. Mm-hmm. And I dropped finance, never finished.
But we also know most successful people in our business came out of the restaurant side. Almost, you ask any of them, they say, yep, waited tables, bartended, ran a restaurant. Mostly front of the house, though. I mean, you rarely see a back of the house person doing real estate and mortgage, but occasionally. Were you back of the house or front of the house?
Front of the house, girl. Twin brother was back of the house. Yeah.
But he got Phyllis, though, so he still had a win there.
He got Phyllis, and I got the better one, though, Stephanie. So that's my girl. So.
I love that. That's the cutest little 7 brides for 7 brothers kind of a story. We'll get y'all a Netflix show after your CNBC thing takes off.
I know it. Come on, girl. You can help me with that. We'll stay.
I mean, look, Jake's got that book going with his wife about things to know when you're pregnant or something. And so you and Stephanie are going to have to take Jake out.
Hey, he's a hot mess, man. That boy is so fun. I love Jake. Hey, if you don't know who he's talking about, Jake, you guys check him out. He's got a great podcast too. So,
and he's got another podcast coming, so you should subscribe to the one so you can get the other one. But his wife she's hilarious. So don't think it's all just Jake; it's the whole household.
Oh yeah, they're a hot mess.
Hey Steve, if anybody needs to reach you, how can they find you and your amazing team all in and around the greater Houston area, 59 and 10 alike?
Yeah. Hey, here's what I would say. If you want to join, I'm going to give you a text number. This is my text community. Come straight to me. It's 713-929-2998, 713-929-2998. And if you want to stay connected, just shoot me a text. Say, hey, I heard you on Leigh Brown's podcast. And I'll definitely stay connected with you. Find me on social at Steve_Kiles. And that's on Instagram or on Facebook. And that, I mean, it's probably a great way just to follow what we're doing. I love coaching loan officers, originators. We coach a lot of agents, just a lot of fun making a difference together in real estate. So Leigh, thank you for your voice in our community. Hey, and I got to tell you, I've not laughed more. I went to my market and I texted him. I said, hey guys, I'm going to be on Leigh's podcast, Crazy Shit in Real Estate, which is so fun to say. I said, I need some stories. And I've got to tell you, I've not laughed so much. And I appreciate because we tend to be so intense. And I try to remind people, look, it's not brain surgery. We're not saving lives. We're buying homes. Like, if everybody can just calm down and take a step backwards, we'll be all right. And that's what I love about your podcast and what you bring to our community and what you're doing to just unveil the craziness. And it's not as sexy as TLC would lead us to believe, or all of these reality shows.
But it's a hell of a lot more fun.
Man, listen, hey, can you tell me this? I'm in the process of rebuilding my house, and how do I get one of those contractors who do all of that work for $50,000? Because my bid wasn't 50 grand, girl. Like, I'd like that guy to fly to me and do my house for me.
I think you're going to have to ride up to Waco, but I think the Magnolia people are now way too big. It's just ride up 35. I mean, just ride 10 over, get on 35. You'll be there in like, I don't know, 5 hours or something. And you should ask them, because I'm sure they do it for that cheap now.
Crazy. Man, I would love to hire them as contractors. That'd be nice. So.
But look, y'all, all of this boils down to say you need to make sure that you're selecting a realtor who knows things and a loan officer who knows things. And if they don't know things, they've got somebody they can ask. Yeah. And we gave y'all a little tidbit on student loans. If y'all were paying attention, you even learned something here. So if you need somebody that can help you with that, make sure that you've got the right preferred lender in your corner, somebody like Steve and his team at Movement, or whoever else is in your market. We know there's great lenders in all the brands, because we love masterminding with them. And if you didn't write down his phone number, I feel you. I know you people didn't have an ink pen that works because your home inspector gave you the cheap ones. I get it. Don't worry, though, because it's all in the show notes for this episode. You can reach out anytime. And in fact, you should. And then you should download his podcast and watch him on CNBC. And we've also name dropped a couple of other people who are pretty awesome. The Industry Syndicate. We made fun of Dustin because we love him. But Phil Treadwell, if we don't say Phil's name, he's probably going to take this as a personal affront. Phil's up in Dallas, and he's Industry Syndicate too. So just follow all these guys. If you're in real estate, they'll teach you things. And if you're not in real estate, you'll learn things as well, so that when you make your next purchase, whether it's an investment or a regular house, we want you to make good decisions, because we might not be saving lives, but we're definitely building financial futures. So with that being said, I'm so thankful that you came on the show today, Steve, and I've enjoyed hanging out with you some.
Yeah, same here. Hey,
please tell Stephanie that I can't wait to meet her, because she sounds amazing and she's raising 3 kids. And so you should probably buy her supper one night during the week where she doesn't have to think about it. Surprise her like that.
Our 19-year anniversary is Tuesday, and I've got reservations at Perry's. I've got flowers being delivered. My dog ate her favorite pair of Uggs, so those will be at the table as well.
Nicely done.
Come on, girl. It's 19 years, so yes, I will do it. Hey, and I can't wait to connect when I come to Charlotte. I will.
I know you'll be here because of all the movement people. They show up in town all the time. But can I give you one thing you need to tell your marketing manager at Movement? Look, when y'all send these automated emails out to all your realtors in the market trying to win our hearts over, when one realtor is on everybody's email list, all the subject lines are the same. So maybe y'all should edit the subject lines. I'm just saying, then I won't think I'm being spammed by 1,000 loan officers, but I'm sure you've got some connections that can make that happen. So anyway, friends, if you've enjoyed this conversation, we know you need more of it. Hit subscribe, give me 5 stars because less than 5 and I'll cry. And if you want to be on the show, you should totally hit me up on social media and you can come have some fun and crazy shit too. And until then, we'll see you next time.
See you.
Bye. Wave, Steve. Wave at the audience.
If you are listening to this episode and you need to tell us something about your crazy life in or around real estate, then tweet me at Leigh Brown or reach me on any of the social networks. That's if you're a broker, realtor, investor, inspector, lender, or just a regular normal human being who happens to have dealt in real estate. Subscribe for more episodes, and as always, we are thrilled that you joined us for some crazy shit in real estate. See you next time.